Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Blair County Beat. I'm your host, Ann Merritt. This week's guest is Bob Aitken, a Hollidaysburg resident and friend of our family. I first met Bob about 5 years ago and was instantly captivated by his many travel stories as well as his devotion to his wife, Jean. Bob's life journey began in Detroit before his family emigrated back to Scotland when he was 5 years old. At 18, rather than serve under Britain's military conscription law, he instead decided to enlist in the U.S. Air Force and was stationed near Liverpool, England. During his service, he took college courses through the University of Maryland, graduating in just 3 years, and then started a career as a CPA at Price Waterhouse in Baltimore. Together, Bob and Jean have experienced a lifetime of interesting travels. They've explored all 48 continental states, as well as Alaska and Hawaii. They also became avid cruisers, having spent about 300 days at sea and also on 25 cruises around the world. I hope you'll find this interview with Bob to be interesting, enlightening, and heartwarming. Now let's hear from Bob in his own words. Okay. Hi, Bob. Welcome.
Good to be here.
So what inspired you to, we'll start with some military questions about your service, and then we'll get into your personal life and stuff like that.
Sure.
So what inspired you to join the U.S. Air Force, and when did you serve?
Well, it was back in 1952. When I was 18, I got drafted by the British Army and decided, based on recommendations from my brother, that I should join the Air Force rather than the U.S. Army. So that's what I did. The American Embassy consul in Edinburgh gave me directions where to go to down near London, Bushy Park, in fact. And there I went in and went through basic training.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. What was your career field or specialty while you were in the Air Force?
Well, I had nothing to do with airplanes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
All I did was an administrative position. When you go in, they give you a test to determine what your interests are and what you'd be best at. Are you mechanically inclined or that? And so they put me in an administrative position. And basically, that's what I did. I had an office job for the whole 4 years once I got out of basic training. Yeah.
Oh, neat. What kind of things were you doing in the office, like financial stuff? Because I know...
No, it was nothing to do with finance. That it was in the Air Force, just administrative. The Armed Forces loves paperwork. And that's what we did. We kept shuffling papers around.
Okay.
It's really, but it's very interesting.
Oh, cool. Can you describe what basic training was like for you?
Basic training was very interesting because other people that joined with me were in the same sort of position, dual nationality, and a lot of them, some of them could hardly speak English, in fact, from Germany and France. And so it was a very interesting group of people to meet.
Yeah.
And basic training was, it was kind of tough in some ways. The one thing that I didn't like was shooting a rifle, because when you shoot, that thing bangs your shoulder. And, and I was not too good at that. I remember the drill sergeant telling me, Aiken, if you don't quit messing up with that rifle, you're going to go through basic training again, which I didn't want to do. Yeah.
Okay. What is one experience from your service that sticks with you throughout, like, an important moment in your life?
Oh, well, let's see. Well, one thing that I really enjoyed was every now and then they'd have what they call morale trips, and they'd fly certain airmen to Paris, for example, or Germany for 3 or 4 days. And I was selected to go to Paris, and I always remember that trip. It was so interesting. Maybe that's what started me on my travels. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it was such a nice time we had.
Because in addition to the 48 states and Alaska and Hawaii, you've traveled internationally a lot, right?
Oh, yes, yes. So,
Okay.
quite all the time. And Jeannie's, my wife, is the same. She loves to travel, fortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect match. Were there any deployments or assignments that particularly stand out in your memory?
No, there was, like I said, many administrative positions, but I did have one interesting thing happen when we were in basic training is that Mary Martin's son, Mary Martin, of course, is the Broadway star from South Pacific. Her son was Larry Hagman, was with her in the play South Pacific. They were doing it in London, and he got a draft notice too because he must have been over 18. I don't know what age he was.
Okay.
But he was drafted and joined us and came with a whole slew of reporters and photographers, and they followed us through basic training.
He was famous. You guys are famous now.
Right.
Probably photos of you circulating somewhere around
They
there.
didn't take too many pictures of me. It was all Larry Hagman. And of course, Larry Hagman, he came on to be the big star in Dallas, JR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know who that is.
Yeah.
How difficult was the transition from military to civilian life?
No problem, no. In fact, of course, they asked you if you want to re-enlist, and I didn't. I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it that much. So I decided, no, I'm heading out to college, yeah.
Okay. So what skills from the Air Force were most relevant to your post-military life?
Well, other than the fact that it got me really into office procedures and things like that, which I've always been involved with. So there was nothing, like if I had been in mechanics or that, but I wasn't in that area.
Right.
I was strictly administrative, yeah.
So what advice would you give to young people looking to join the military today?
Well, I think it's a good thing. I wish more boys would join.
Yeah.
And really, I think it really widens they meet people from all over the country, gives them a better outlook, I think, and they're not so provincial, I really think it would help them.
So looking back on your service, what are you most proud of?
Most proud of? Well, the fact that I was lucky enough to attend these classes that were held overseas, and that kind of changed my life because the University of Maryland sends professors over there and they give these courses. And I started thinking, well, gee, until then, I'd never really thought about college. And I thought, hey, this might be a good thing to pursue. So it was really good.
Yeah. What was it like growing up between two cultures after your family moved back to Scotland from America?
Well, I didn't have any problem. Justin, when I came to Scotland, the kids accepted me. I hear so much about when strange kids arrive in a school, they are picked on. But we never had that problem where we were all accepted and really.
Cool.
Yeah.
What made joining the United States Air Force seem like the better option for you at that point in your life versus like another branch of the military?
Well, I just, it's strange. I just had always, when I was a kid, I always liked toy airplanes and things like that. I just fantasized it. Whereas when I thought about the Army, I thought that's kind of rough.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be easier, really. You know? Yeah, and it was really.
Yeah.
It was good.
So how did taking evening classes from professors at University of Maryland kind of change the future of your life?
Well, I started it just thinking, hey, am I going to like this? Well, I enjoyed it, and I did. The professors were so nice, and they encouraged me too. They said, hey, when you get discharged, you should call up, and if you don't want to go to Maryland, go try out some other school. And so they encouraged me to take more courses, and that was really helpful.
Cool. So what was the transition like from military life to college life when you enrolled at the University of Maryland in the U.S.?
Oh, that worked out great. In fact, I went to a fraternity, it's called Sigma Pi, and at the University of Maryland, and it was almost half of them were veterans.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to most of the other fraternities, they were all 18-year-old, and I was 22, so we related better because we were all veterans and stuff.
Yeah.
And we didn't get all that nonsense. You know, they do the freshmen, they have to do things.
Yeah.
They didn't mess with us.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you describe your experience working as a CPA for Price Waterhouse?
Yeah, that was interesting. I enjoyed the work very much because I like to travel, and they'd send me down to all over the place. Unfortunately, once I got married, that was a problem for Jean because she moved from Edinburgh down to Baltimore, big city. And the first time I told her I had to go out of town for 3 weeks, she said, "You got to be kidding."
Yeah.
She did not like that, yeah, being left alone. So other than that, I enjoyed the work. It was very interesting. We were going into all kind of different industries to audit, and you really enjoyed it.
You have to have a certain mindset for being a CPA. You have to pass the test, right?
Hmm.
Mm.
Yes, I'll remember. I still remember studying for that test. I took in Pittsburgh, in fact, and I still remember I was still studying, and Jean said she would drive me to Pittsburgh. It was at Duquesne University where we had the test.
Okay.
And so I'm in the back seat, still trying to study. And when we got there, but we passed, so it worked out. Worked out good.
Great. So changing the subject a little bit more to your personal life and experiences, what were your first impressions of Jean when you met her?
Oh, it was just, I met her, I don't know if I told you the story about how I went to school with a fella at the University of Maryland who ended up working with a guy called Paul Evans, who happened to be Jean's sister, who I didn't know anything about at the time. And those two called me up and said they'd like me to go to a game between Penn State and Maryland at State College. And at first I didn't want to go because it was October, very cold and miserable. So they kept talking to me. So I went up there. We went to the game. Then Raymond said, "Would you guys like to come home to Evansburg for dinner?" And that's what we did. We went up there and met all the family. And then Jean walked in. I still remember when she walked in. I guess that was it, yeah. She just flashed those eyes at me, and that was it.
That's so romantic. I'm still waiting for that.
Oh, you're waiting for that? You're waiting for that?
Yeah.
And then, as I was telling your mother, as we left the house, I said to Raymond, Jean's brother, I said, "Do you think I should give Jean a call?" And he said, "Oh, you're wasting your time because she's dating right now." And but I persisted. I just said, when I got back to Baltimore, I gave Jean a call, and surprisingly enough, she invited me up.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
That's where it started.
That is the best story. What do you think has been the secret to a successful marriage approaching 65 years together?
Well, I think mostly it's doing things together. Jean and I do everything together. We square danced in Pennsylvania for years. We square danced in Florida when we moved to Florida. Then we took up golf. She golfed with me in the foursome. And of course, exercises. We go to the YMCA here 3 days a week together. So I guess that's really it. So just sort of do everything together, shop together, go to bed at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Easy enough. Sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did your love of travel evolve from a small Coleman pop-up trailer to traveling across all 48 continental states?
Well, you know where it actually started back in Scotland. My dad had a tiny little trailer. It was so small, my goodness. I don't know how we got in it. And we would go out to the Scottish Highlands are beautiful. The Loch Lomond, of course, you've heard of that. And we go out on weekend trips and that, and I think that's what really got me interested in it.
Oh, that's cool. Of all the places you and Jean have visited together, which destination stands out as your favorite and why?
Oh, there's so many. In the United States, I think our favorite place was Estes Park. We went there several times in the fall. It was so beautiful, Estes Park. It's in the Rocky Mountains National Park.
Okay.
And I just loved it. And then they had music downtown every night in this beautiful setting. And we loved Estes Park. We'd go out and you'd hear the elk in the distance. It's such a beautiful place. That was one place we really liked. And Oh boy, where do you start? There's so
What
many
about
places.
internationally?
Internationally, well, okay, I can tell you a trip. I'll tell you about a trip we made with my wife and her mother, because her dad Jean's dad had just died, and her mother was, so of course, sort of upset and everything. And we decided to take her back to Hungary, her birthplace, a
Mm-hmm.
little village called Kislonia in Hungary. And we said, hey, Emma, that was her name, Emma. I said, we're going to take you back to Hungary. So she was all excited about that. And we flew over to Vienna and rented a car. And this time, Hungary was under the Russian occupation. And oh boy, what a place. Because when we got to the border, we got these Russian troops were standing there, and not very friendly, and they wanted to know where we were going, what we're going to do, and how long we're going to be there. And finally, they let us through, and we stayed in Budapest a few days before going to Jean's mother's house. And downtown Budapest was the weirdest thing, because the young people you would see them in the square, but they were all quiet, mute, not like here, noisy and everything.
Yeah.
And they had these Russian soldiers everywhere. It was a different atmosphere. It was very hard to experience. And you always got this nervous feeling, hey, we're going to get out of here because we're Americans. Anyway, on the way out to Kislonia, we met a hitchhiker, and I was wondering, what are we going to do when we get there? How are we going to find this house? And we picked up this hitchhiker, and before you know it, he's just jabbering away to Jean's mother in the back seat. And Jean's mother says, hey, he knows an English-speaking teacher in Kislonia. We'll take you there. So they took us there, and this woman was absolutely amazing, and her husband. They took us right into the house, gave us lunch. Then they said we had to stay for dinner, and before you know it, all the neighbors were over here to see the Americans.
Yeah.
They were all curious because they all had relatives back here, and we were dancing and everything. And then the lady even made us stay there. She says, you don't want to go back to Budapest, it's too late. So we stayed overnight, and then the next morning she took us to her school to meet all her kids, and that was so nice. These kids were all curious. These kids were all very curious about what's going on in America, and they seem to think that everybody takes drugs over here, for example. They had different perceptions of America. So anyway, we went back to Budapest. Oh no, they took us to the church. I should have forgotten to tell you about that, to see my mother's records, birthplace and everything.
Right.
And there we saw the priest brought out the book, and he said, here's Emma Toth. That was her maiden name, Emma Toth. And we could see her birth date. It was 1903 or something like that.
Wow.
It was an amazing thing. So then we got back to Budapest, got out of Hungary in one place and in one piece. And
good.
It was such a feeling to get out of there. It's awful when you're in a country that's controlled by Russians.
Yeah. So your motorhome that broke down near Branson, Missouri. What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, one thing, when you're driving a big motorhome like that, you're going to have breakdowns. We've had several. But that was about the worst one, because we broke down. We were heading to Branson, and as we were getting off the expressway, as I found out later, it's something to do with the fuel pump broke down. And we stalled on the exit ramp, and I couldn't believe it, because I couldn't move, and the cars behind me were honking the car. And everything. What a mess that was. And but we called a tow service that we have, and finally a tow truck arrived, and it wasn't ours. It was the police that apparently got involved, and they found a tow service closer by, and they towed us to a place, a garage where they repaired it. And but the nice thing about that was they had utilities. They said they couldn't fix it that day. They would repair it the next day. So they plugged in our utilities and everything. So we had everything working. It was just like we were camping out in the garage.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So you went on a cruise, a Mediterranean cruise, and
yes.
your luggage didn't arrive for 10 days.
Oh, that was a memorable experience because you have to have your luggage.
Yes.
And we had the plane from Pittsburgh to New York, where we were going to get the plane to Istanbul. The plane from Pittsburgh was late in getting out. So finally, when we got to JFK, they said, "Hey, your plane's gone, but don't worry, we'll get you on another plane." So several hours later, we got another plane. And when we got to Istanbul, that's where we were going to get on the ship, Princess Cruise.
Okay.
When we got there, they hunted and couldn't find the luggage, but they said, "Don't worry, we'll get it to you before the ship leaves." And we got on the ship, and then a few hours later, the ship's pulling out. There's still no luggage.
Yeah.
So we contacted the Princess Cruise people, and they said they'd keep in touch with the airline. And it was 10 days later, we were sailing past another port, and we heard the announcement that, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Aitken's luggage is coming on the tugboat." And we looked, and here it came 10 days later.
10 days
It was
later.
a terrible time because we had formal dinners, and all I had was a shirt and pair of pants. And the steward was a miracle guy. He brought me a tuxedo, but it was just a little bit too large.
Yeah.
I'm a short guy.
Right.
And but Jeannie fortunately had a dress, so we survived. It's amazing. And the ship gave us a lot of things, toilet articles and stuff like that.
That's great.
Yeah, worked out.
It worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So last question. Looking back, how significant was that cold football game between Penn State University and the University of Maryland in shaping the rest of your life?
Oh, it's very, yeah.
Yeah.
It was very important, yeah, because if that happened, I wouldn't have met Gene.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get emotional thinking about it.
Do you? Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Well, we've now reached the end of our interview with Bob. But as we reflect on his life so far, one thing becomes clear. His journey has been shaped by courage, opportunity, and a willingness to embrace adventure. From leaving Scotland to serve in the U.S. Air Force to starting a career as a CPA, Bob's life has been about adaptability and determination. Yet by his own account, perhaps the greatest moment of his life was that cold, snowy football game weekend where he met his wife, Jean, who they're about to celebrate their 65th anniversary.
That's correct. Yep.
Bob's story is not just about where he traveled. It's about memories, relationships, and enduring love that made everything worthwhile. I hope you enjoyed meeting Bob, and we'll see you the next time on Blair County Beat.